everybody. This is Goldfinger from the Goldfinger Minute. Today, I have an interesting guest. This is Kevin Tucker. And I have mentioned Kevin Tucker in the past on my lives, but we're going to first let him introduce himself, give a little bit of story behind how he got here, why he got here, and then we're going to go into an interesting subject of what he does when he's here. Kevin, welcome.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Goldfinger. This studio is very nice.
Thank you.
This is professional, guys.
Yeah, I went all out.
I worked for a company in the U.S., and the boss decided to retire at the end of 2021. And so I was out of a job, so I just went ahead and sold my house, sold everything, got in an RV, went around the U.S. for a year, and then decided to come to the Philippines. And I got here in late December 19th, 2022.
So you had the financial wherewithal to go ahead and not have to work at the moment.
Yes. So,
okay.
And I'm only 59, so I'm too young to get Social Security.
You're a youngster.
Yeah.
And that was 2 years ago.
Well, 2021 was the last year I've had a real job.
Oh, okay. So that was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're 59 now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So you were very young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good to retire young. And I'll tell you why real quick. I've met many of people that said they wish they had retired younger. Now they're too old to travel. They have illnesses. They have to go in they might have blood transfusions. They have to go, I forgot the name of it. But they have other problems that
Dialysis.
they have. Dialysis, thank you. And unfortunately, they're also as we get older, we get afraid to get outside our comfort circle.
Sure.
So go ahead and tell us more about you. I don't want to interrupt you too much.
And that's the main reason why I wanted to do this. I mean, I travel a lot here. I'm gone anywhere between 1 and 3 weeks every month.
Okay.
I've been to 18 islands so far.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I've been to three islands.
Siquijor
in 2 years. Siquijor,
and
of course.
Luzon.
And I didn't. I haven't gone to actually, other than landing in Manila. I never saw any of Manila.
Okay.
I was in the airport, and then I traveled to Cebu. Actually, that's another island. So that's 3. And I went to Bohol.
Okay.
So I'm up to 4. Wow.
You didn't even know it. And when you went to Cebu, if you didn't take the ferry, you flew on to Mactan, so that would be 5.
Yeah, that's true. That's
so
true.
there you
That's a
go.
separate island. That's true. So which island did you find the most interesting that you'd like to go back to?
All of them been really cool. Mindanao is so big, and it has different climates and everything. I went all the way around. I flew into Davao, went all the way up to Cagayan de Oro.
So it has elevations.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you get up there and there's pine trees and log cabins.
Do you know
and
they
stuff
have a
like that.
pink beach somewhere on the island? There's all the coral ground down to the sand, and the whole beach is pink.
Wow.
And it's only in Mindanao. It's the only island that has a pink beach.
I did not know
It's
that.
interesting. I'd love to visit that. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's in the best of areas.
Hopefully it's not down in Zamboanga.
That's a rough area.
Yeah, that's where all the Muslim extremists are.
Is that the ISIS or is that something else?
Actually, it's funny. They had to change their name because their original initials were MILF.
MILF. Oh, yeah, that's not a good one to have, is it?
And somebody
Oh my
finally
God.
explained it to them. So
They'll attract even more foreigners.
right. So, but yeah, that's down there, and sometimes they will kidnap
for
foreigners.
For bounty, not for so much bounty, but they want money.
Right.
To release you.
The ransom.
Ransom, thank you. I'm lost for words this morning. I haven't had enough coffee. But you liked Mindanao?
Mindanao was good. I've even been to small islands like Tablas, Romblon, and these are just little bitty islands out in the middle of nowhere where you've got a 10-kilometer beach to yourself.
Can you spend the night?
Yeah, there's resorts.
So it's it's a real vacation off on an island all by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
That was really nice.
They have food there?
Yeah, I stayed at a resort owned by a German fellow, so it was mostly German cuisine. But
That would be pretty cool. I would like to do that, but I'm really a home person. I have my new comfort circle, which is Dumaguete. Unfortunately, we all create comfort circles. So
well, and to get to that island, we actually I can't think of the name of the island that Iloilo's on, just right next to us. But flew into there, and we had to take a banca boat for 2 hours to get to Tablas. A banca boat's the little bitty boats with the
Banca boat.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
So they have a motor, I assume, at least.
a very loud one.
A very loud motor.
That's what you see all the fishermen in.
Okay.
Those are banca boats.
Yeah, I could hear them from the shore. They're pretty loud.
Yeah.
But in Thailand, they have a very interesting motor. They usually use a car engine with a very long shaft and a propeller in the water that they lift up and out. It's very different.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, in Thailand, it's very different on the rivers than they are here. Of course, they're in rivers, so it's they don't have waves. So it's a thin, skinny, long boat.
Okay.
Yeah. So your favorite island was?
You know, it's really hard to say, but I've been to all these different places, and I've never found any place better than here. For the combination of
Really?
quality beef, you got Bellcrest, you've got
Yeah.
Blair's in Valencia, you've got the name, I can't remember the name of the deli underneath the Jade Dragon over there in North Point. You know, you can get quality meat here. The driving isn't too crazy, only in downtown Dumaguete, but here, you know, Bekong and Valencia,
Yeah, it's not national highway is pretty
Yeah,
wide,
pretty easy.
especially in Bekong and down because it's double lanes.
Right.
So
And then on top of that, and a lot of people think this is a negative, but we have, I mean, I would say other than Angeles City and Subic Bay, only because of military bases up there, I would say we have more foreigners per capita than any other place in the Philippines, here in Dumaguete.
yes, yeah, we do. We got Australians, Canadians, Americans,
Germans, everything.
yeah,
Russians.
Russians, everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen them all. They all come here. Well, I'm starting to see a lot of younger crowd though, and a younger crowd is starting to go to Siquijor now.
Yes, a
Backpackers.
bunch of young Europeans.
Yeah, that seems to be the place to hang out. Usually they do that because they have pot and other young people, but I don't think they have that much pot available in Siquijor. But
You
I
know,
could be
that's,
wrong.
That's life in prison. You get caught over here.
Is it
Yes,
life in prison?
life in
yeah,
prison.
they're pretty tough on drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Just go to Thailand if you want to do that.
Yeah.
Just pop over there for a
in
little
Mexico, they had a little area where all young digital nomads would hang out. And they're all young, girls and guys, and they'd surf. They had great surfing right there, and they just took over that whole area.
bit. Wow.
But heavy pot. You ride into there, you can't help but smell it everywhere. You know.
Oh.
But I don't think that's going to happen in Siquijor. So I don't know what the total attraction is, other than young people like to be with young people. So
Yeah, there's more Europeans on Siquijor than U.S.
I think there's a lot of bars too now.
Yeah, everything in San Juan. That's all.
It's all
there.
bars.
I mean, I love Siquijor. I used
love
to
it
go
too.
once a month.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But then lately, I've been going to Sipalai on the other end of this island.
Okay.
And you know, here we get sunrises because we're facing east, but Sipalai is facing west, and the sunsets there are just incredible.
Ah,
And
beautiful sunsets.
yeah, I found a resort there that waits on you hand and foot. They have a decent steak and
Do you
everything.
remember the name of the resort?
Yes, it's gosh darn it, no.
Well, you might come up with it. If you do later on, just
It's actually in Hinobaan, and if you pull it up, God, if you go to Google Maps and pull up resorts in Hinobaan, it'll come up. It's
Okay.
like the biggest one.
sounds interesting. It sounds like a great place to go visit.
Oh, it
I
is.
can't take a quiet island for too long. Okay, a week is too long.
Oh, yeah.
On an island that doesn't have a whole lot to do. A couple days, 3 days is fine. Now, when you go to Siquijor, do you take your bike or do you
No, I take the ferry, go over and rent a bike.
rent a bike? Yeah,
And
that's what I tell people to do.
you know, I've been over there so often that I know everything to do. So I'm a fun person to go to Siquijor. with.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. So you know all the places.
Yes, all
That's
the,
cool.
the caves. The
I've never been
secret
through the
beaches.
caves. Darn it, I missed the caves.
You,
I've been there twice, and both times I missed the caves.
the cave is not for older, bigger guys. Like I'm 6'2".
Yeah.
There's the first probably 5 meters or so. It's only 3 feet tall.
Is it lit?
No,
Is the water? I understand is very clear.
the water is clear. You know, you have to go in with a guide. Normally 2 guides will go in with you. And yeah, you walk right through the water. The
You
whole
walk
way
through the
into
water.
it. Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were on a boat.
No,
No.
no. In Siquijor, you just walk through there.
You walk through the water.
Yeah.
Is it cold or warm?
It's pretty cold.
I bet it is.
Yeah. So
Is it fresh?
it is fresh water, and they do have fish in there. They've got some blind. I think they were catfish. I don't remember
I'm
exactly.
surprised they let you walk through it because you would think that you'd be introducing bacteria or things to the water. And
Well, they don't really think about some things.
how
here.
deep is it that you're walking through?
I think that the deepest
Is it
section,
waist?
knee high.
Knee high. Oh, so it's not real high.
Waist high for a Filipino.
Yeah, right. And what else do you do here?
On Siquijor?
No, here in Dumaguete.
Well, I'm pretty fortunate. I live in a nice place. I live right on the beach, so I can go
that's
swimming
nice.
anytime I want. I just hang out with some friends in Valencia.
That's cool.
I had a friend come in this last week. We went up to Pulang Falls on the other side of Valencia. The sulfur rocks and everything.
Yes, I've been there.
So
It's up towards Red Rock.
yeah, same road.
Same road. Okay, yeah, I used to live up that way.
Yeah.
So I know something you do keeps you busy. Go ahead and tell us about your trading.
Okay. I thought you were going to go with something else, actually, but
You can talk about something else if it's on your mind.
well, no. But what I do, again, I haven't had a real job since 2021, and I've started trading stock options. I first started out. I'm self-taught on everything. I started
Very
doing
good.
this. Started doing this in 2020, and at first I just bought stocks. Looked at day trading. That wasn't worth it. Went to swing trading. Then I found out about options, and it's very interesting. Only about 1 or 2% of the population of the world even knows how to do this, and it's a
Really?
shame. This should be taught in every high school.
I tell you, I did it myself, but we're talking over 25 years ago. Okay, it was before the year 2000 I did it. So, well, no, actually, no, that's not true. 2005, 2007 I did it. So,
Did you still have to call a broker back then to do it, or was it
no,
online?
it was online brokerage, and I had high level. I was able to put puts, calls, butterflies. I did all that stuff. I actually took classes back then. There was nobody that did it, and very few people did options. And I made a lot of money at it. Actually, I did very well. I got busy with my gold business, so I had to drop it because it was New York. I was in California, so I'm getting up at 5:30 in the morning and doing one job, one hat, and then around 9 or 10 o'clock I have to knock off of that and do my other hat.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't keep them both up, and the gold went up, and I had to drop something, so I dropped that. But I actually started because gold was very low, but gold went up so high I got very busy. Now, in stock options, you have more than one screen?
No. I mean, I do the simplest thing possible. What I do is called the wheel strategy.
Okay.
And there's tons of videos on this on YouTube, guys. You can pull this up, and it's very easy. And that has two strategies involved to that.
Okay.
The first, so when you get started, you don't own any stock, so you would start with selling cash secured puts. That means you have money, and what you're doing is you're making a deal with a pessimist to buy a stock that you like. So I'll put it this way. So say you own a stock that's $10 a share
You
right
actually
now.
don't own the stock, though. I'm going to correct you on that. You have the option.
Well, I'm saying
You own the option.
I'm saying you own the stock.
Yeah.
I make a deal with you.
Oh, the other person owns the stock.
Yes.
Okay.
They own the stock. I have to put up cash as collateral.
Okay.
In the beginning. So what I do is say you bought the stock. The stock is $10 a share.
Okay.
I like it at $10 a share. Wouldn't mind buying it. Always do this, guys, with something you know.
Okay.
A stock you like. You wouldn't mind buying it at today's price. Well, on Monday, I make a deal with you. Say, okay, Goldfinger, the stock is $10 a share. Tell you what, on Friday, I'll buy at least 100 shares from you. Mm-hmm. That's what an option contract consists
100 shares is an option.
And
Single
so
option.
I say, I'll buy that from you on Friday if it drops to $8. And believe it or not, Goldfinger will pay me to make that deal. He will pay me cash for me to buy a stock from him that has to drop 20% for me to buy it in 1 week. And in a perfect world, I never buy a single share of stock.
No.
You know, the deal expired. Most of the time, if you go down with the far enough delta, and they've got Greeks and things like that, it basically tells you what percentage the likelihood of you getting assigned.
I don't remember all the different, what do they call them? The
Greeks.
Fibonacci? Was it?
The Greeks.
The Greeks. They have Fibonacci. They have all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. I don't remember all the names. We used to look, you're doing puts. I used to do mostly calls, but we looked for the M. Okay, we looked for three tops. Okay, and I watched a stock for a while. Now I did, and I'm not going to be as good as you because I haven't been doing it for many years. It's been a long time. But as I remember, we did swing trading. We didn't do day at all. It was too risky.
Yeah.
Day, and so I would do swing. Swing trading to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was like more than a week, usually three
days
months.
up to 3 days up to like 2 months.
2 months,
like that,
3 months, yeah. And just kind of watch it. But you do have to, you put in stops to protect yourself. Mm-hmm. And I was told that if I made money on 2 out of 10 options, I'd be making money. And I did. And usually I'd do better than 2. But they said at 2, your break even is at 2, and anything better than 2, you'll make money. Does that still hold true, would you say?
I mean, for me, you were doing way more than I was. The things that I do are it's so simple.
You're just got it down to a cookie cutter that works.
Yeah. What I try and do is when I'm doing cash secured puts, and that means I don't own the stock yet, I try and pick a delta, go down far enough on the strike price. Like I said, normally on a $10 stock, it'll go down in 50-cent increments.
Okay.
And each increment you go down, like if you own it for 10, if I say I'll buy it at 9.50, then I've probably got a 60%, maybe higher probability of it dropping and me having to buy that stock
everything
from
has
you.
highs and lows. Yeah.
Well, what I do is I go down and pick a delta, a strike price, say $8, where I am making anywhere between 1.5% and 1.8% on my money every week.
Okay.
So think about that. If you're making 1.8% on your money, and the deal expires harmlessly 80 to 85% of the time, 1.8% on your money is over 90% annualized.
Yes.
That's without reinvesting
over
your profits.
It's 100%. It's easy.
Yeah.
12 times 12. It's quite a bit.
Yeah. So that's what I do.
And if you don't mind me asking, if there's anything you don't want to say, go ahead. But how much do you invest?
Well, it does take money to make money.
Yes, it does.
You know, and I do have a pretty good amount that I play with.
Can you give us a range or a number, what it takes?
Well,
are we talking $50,000 US, $100,000 US, or more?
Oh, more than that every week.
Every week,
Yeah.
more than. Now, you have a portfolio of a certain value.
Yes.
I was always told only to risk 10% at any one time of my. That's what I was told. I don't know if that holds true. Do you risk more than 10% of your total assets?
I do about 70% every week.
So you're into it 70%,
Yeah.
which is, and honestly, I'm going to be honest. Okay, so just going to give you an idea. It's been a long time since I did it. It's hard to remember. It's over 15 years, but I had about 100,000 portfolio. That was the most I was willing to put into it. After I tried it for a month, and you could try it when you have a brokerage. You could try it with not real money. Like you could create a fint or fake account and start with 100,000 or even $1 million if you want. Yeah. And you practice that way. And that's how I had to practice for about a month or two. I don't remember how long. When I finally went into it and I saw that I was making good money in the first couple of weeks, I put 75% of my money in.
Yeah.
And the 75% made me, and it scared me a little bit, honestly. The 75%, 75,000 of my 100,000 portfolio, when I actually put 100,000 transferred from my bank account to the brokerage, and I invested 75, which you're not supposed to do. That's what I was told. But of course, we get greedy and we're human. Okay,
it works.
And I made 28,000 in less than a month. I think 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was like shocked.
I've taught 18 people how to do it here in Dumaguete, and my longest tenured protege made 88% on his money last year.
Good gosh.
And
how much are they investing? Let's go talk about
well,
them.
all of them started small, a couple thousand.
Just a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And but then after they get their feet wet and they see,
They practice a little bit,
Yeah.
a few times, see if they're winning, losing.
Right.
Do you go over your losses or over your wins? And I used to write it down. I can only tell you what I was taught. You write down why you bought this particular stock, when you bought it, what the price was, what your theory of what it's going to do, what you based it on, and then when you finally sold it, whether it made profit or not, you write down. Do you do any of that?
I spend 10 minutes a week on this.
Okay.
That's all I do.
So you've been doing it for how long, though?
This will be my 5th year.
Okay, so if you do it, yeah. I did it for months. I think I did it only for about 3 months.
Okay.
So that's probably why. I think after a while you would probably know if you made a mistake or not, why.
Well, the good thing is, like if I teach you, you're going to learn from all my mistakes. Like I said, I'm self-taught, made mistakes, got greedy. Greed is a bad thing with options. If you don't go down far enough on that strike price, like I said, in a perfect world, I will never buy a single share of stock. If you never own a single share of stock, if the market crashes or something, say Trump puts tariffs on, something like that, the market crashes.
Which happened recently.
Yeah, so your portfolio can just take a beating. Now you're stuck with stocks where you would do the next strategy. You would get assigned, you'd do the next strategy, which you mentioned, covered calls.
Uh-huh.
And but if it drops far enough down to where nobody's even interested in making a deal with you for the price you paid for it, then you can't make a premium. Your portfolio's down this much. You got people freaking out and selling everything.
So we're talking about stuff that a lot of people won't know what a covered call, butterfly, or any of that stuff is.
Well,
and they won't understand it because you could buy and sell the same stock.
Yes.
At different prices.
Yeah, you can actually do a put and a call
at the same time.
If you own the stock, you can do the call.
Yeah.
But that's okay. So covered calls, that's the second strategy. So let's just say on Friday, the stock dropped to $8. So
Okay.
I got assigned. I had to buy 100 shares of stock from you. What I do on the following Monday is, okay, I made a deal with you. You were pessimistic. What I do on Monday, I make a deal with someone who's
optimistic.
an optimist.
Yeah.
And so what I do is, I put the covered call up for the same exact price that I paid for it. I'll put it up for $8 a share.
Oh.
Now, 3 things can happen when you do this. Now, the optimist, he's hoping he's going to pay me $8 a share. He's hoping it goes to 10. Even if it goes to 10, I still have to sell it to him for 8.
Right.
That's the deal we made. But by me putting it up for the same price that I paid for it, I'm getting premiums, which that's the money that I get paid to do the deal, anywhere between 5 and 7% for that 1 week.
Okay.
So I'm happy to do that. So
you end up owning the stock.
I got assigned from you.
I never did. I never actually owned the stock.
Really?
No, I didn't. I just did. I just did options. I never actually purchased or owned the stock.
Well, you did well if you never got assigned and never had to actually buy it.
I didn't have the money. I didn't have the money to. I mean, you're dealing in, I'm sure, thousands of shares. So
I'm sitting on about 40,000 shares of.
Yeah, I never went that big.
Now.
I was. It made me nervous. Okay, I'm not good. Even though I grew up in Las Vegas and I gambled, I didn't gamble to win. I gambled for the entertainment purposes, and it's like, so I lost a couple $100, no big deal. I would never lose 10 or 20 or 50,000. I've been with guys sat next to them, and I've seen them drop. They don't seem to worry about it, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I couldn't pull the trigger. Let's say.
Well, no,
I gotta see if my air is on. It feels warm in here. Let me make it a little cooler.
It's on 27.
Yeah, 27. I'm gonna drop it to 26.
There you go. So, so what I do the next week, put it up for sale, and I'm hoping that I don't care if it goes to 10. I just want to get rid of it. I want to go back to my cash. I don't ever want to own
I'm
stock.
surprised you don't ask more, like 9 for it.
Well,
you'd make a lot more money.
I would, but what if it drops to 7 the next week? And it keeps going down.
Then they're going to ask you for, what do they call it when they ask you for additional funds to back up your position?
Oh, well, that'd be a margin call.
A margin call, yeah.
But no, I mean that wouldn't be the case. It's just
because you own it.
Because I own the stock.
Yeah, you don't have to have a margin call. You're not on margin.
And that's only if you borrow money to do it.
So I had told Kevin that I'm going to be coming over his house to learn. Of course, I don't even have a brokerage account anymore. So the first step, of course, I have to get a brokerage account.
Yes.
You don't have to put a lot of money in it. You could just start practicing on the fake account. They'll let you create a fake account with any amount of money you want, and you have full access live, as it used to be, full live access to all the stocks
Sure.
and the options you buy and sell. But you just don't make any money. You don't really lose any money. You're just practicing. That's probably been my first step.
And I can show you a $5 stock to where most you got to put up is $500 because
Right.
it's 100 shares, and start with that.
All right.
That's what most of my friends did, and they just slowly but surely put more in.
So have you anybody how many people have you taught? Let's go back a little bit. You've taught
Worldwide
people, or no, here in Dumaguete.
You'll be 19, I believe.
I'll be 19. Okay. And of the now count me. Of the 18 that you did teach, how many are still doing it?
All of them.
So, if they're still doing it, I have to assume they all did well.
Yes.
Okay. They enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing exactly what you're doing, type of thing, or are they doing it different?
Some of them are actually doing the same stocks that I do, which, that always makes me nervous because I've been dealing with these stocks for 5 years. I'm prepared. They're very volatile. And that has a big...
That's the advantage. You want a volatile stock.
Yes. The more volatile it is, the higher your premiums are going to be.
Yeah. That's one of the Greeks that you use is volatility.
Yes.
Because you don't want a stock to stay.
If you got
you're not buying
Coca-Cola,
IBM. You're not going to buy IBM.
Procter
okay?
& Gamble, nothing like that.
No, you want an up-and-coming stock.
Right.
Usually it's electronic, which are volatile. Back in the day, it was electronic. I don't know what it is today, but there's always been and oranges because of Florida weather.
Commodities.
All commodities. So you'd have to look up commodities, but that's precious metals as well, and pork bellies and things like that. It's been a long time.
I deal with a lot of stocks that are tied to Bitcoin.
Okay.
And so...
And Bitcoin's been quite active too lately.
It got over 100 grand again, so it's probably right around 100. I think when I got in bed last night, it was 102, 103.
Yeah,
somewhere.
when I came over here just before I left, and that's about. Well, I went to Mexico. So before I went to Mexico, I owned some Bitcoin, and I sold it. I think I owned 2 or 3 at $2,000 each. I owned the whole coin, 2,000 or 3,000 each. And then when I went to Mexico, I sold it off, 2,000 each. It's sad, but that happens with a lot of people. Some people lose the memory card or whatever, where they have the ability to collect on their Bitcoin.
I've seen stories back in the day when people bought Bitcoin for a penny a piece, and they're trading 100 Bitcoin for a delivered pizza.
It started off at 5 cents, as I remember.
Yeah.
It started off 5 cents, and there's people that had them and sat on them for 20 years and threw the computer in the trash, along with the hard drive, and then they start digging through the trash. There's a story about a guy who dug through the trash for days and days and days, could not find his computer.
Wow.
That's a shame.
Yeah. But
he had bought like $50 worth at 5 cents. That's a lot.
Wow.
Of shares.
Yeah.
Man, he'd be a trillionaire.
20. So what'd that be? 1,000 Bitcoin.
1,000 times the nickel. 5, 50, 500, 5,000. Yeah, that'd be 1,000 coins at 5 cents. Yeah, 1,000 times 100,000. A million. Is that a million? Or is it 10 million?
10 million.
10 million.
Yeah.
He's killing himself. So there's stories about it. There's stories on it. But we're getting off the subject. So how long does it take? How many lessons does it take for someone to learn the basics of it? Not me, because I'll probably pick up on it fast. I just don't remember all the words, the names of everything. But if someone doesn't know anything at all about trading options.
The longest it's taken any of my people who lived here, a guy named Sam, he was probably for about 8 weeks. Okay, so this is what I'm doing, right? And if I help you, if I teach you how to do this, you can ask me questions anytime. You've got my help.
He doesn't bother you? He doesn't? No. And how old was Sam?
Sam's my age, 50s, late 50s.
I was thinking maybe he's older. As we get older, we get a little more cautious. We treasure. We're on retirement. We treasure. We're not everybody's a millionaire that comes over here. So, and here's the big question: and how much do you charge for the lessons?
Absolutely nothing.
Is that incredible, guys, or what? Absolutely nothing. He's been available, and I met him 2 years ago, and said to him, "Oh yeah, I used to do options. I'd like to do that myself." And now I can't believe it's 2 years later since I've met you.
Yeah.
Uh, you were at Ground Zero with the cute little, at the time, 19-year-old African
21.
American.
21.
Was she
21.
19 or 20?
She
Oh,
was
she was 21?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I lied. Cute little thing. And I said, "Oh, I'd like to learn that." And I never even got back with you. 2 years now.
Yeah.
Imagine where I'd be today if I'd been doing it for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Ay. So you can't
You'd have a
just-
lot more scooters in the driveway. That's
yeah,
for sure.
right. I wouldn't be needing. Carolyn does that, but I wouldn't be needing scooter rentals, would I? I'd be probably talking to people more about, other than meeting other people talking about what they do. I'd be teaching people how to trade, which actually there are people on YouTube that do teach you trading options. It's all available out there. There's lots of information available out there. So I'll be coming over. We're going to set up a date, and I'm going to take some lessons. I'm sorry, how long do you think it takes? How many lessons? Or how long?
I mean,
Or how often?
if we sit down and since you've got a good idea, I mean, 15 minutes.
No, seriously, it's been a long time, man. I remember a few things. It might come back to me, but it's been a long time. And being older, I'm going to be 69 in 2 weeks. So I'd like to do it again, though, because now what are the hours here? Because I used to get up at 5 a.m. in Las Vegas because of New York Stock Exchange. Are you exchanging on the New York?
Yeah, and the stock market opens at 10:30 p.m. here.
That's a lot more doable.
Yeah.
Though I might be tired. I could take a nap. Okay.
Well, when I do covered calls, and that means when I own the stock, it seems like when the market opens on Monday, that's the most optimistic it will be at any point.
15, 30 minutes. 15 minutes.
Yeah.
First 15 minutes, 5 minutes sometimes.
Yeah, but because 3/4 of or 80% of the country is still asleep. The only people who are up are on the East Coast and all that, because the market opens at 8:30 or whatever there. And so that's when I do my covered calls. Now, if I'm doing cash secured puts, I'll wait until about 1:30, 2 in the morning to do that, because now you've got people in LA who are awake. Everybody's digesting the news.
When they wake up. Okay.
And so I call it the bad times, but it seems like in the U.S. it was 11:30 to 1:30 Central Time, because I was in Houston. The market would start good, then for that 2-hour period it'd go down a little,
Right.
and then like the last 20 minutes it would go back up or whatever. So like I said, I do my calls early when I own the stock, and then when I'm doing the puts, I do them later. You want to wait and let the price drop.
Now you have to explain to people, they don't know what a call or a put is, and they don't know what a covered call is. So you have to give a little bit of explanation of what you're talking about.
So the covered call is when you own the stock. So that's where I'm making the deal with the optimist. I'm selling the covered call option, and I'm doing it with an optimist. My goal is to just get rid of the stock. I put it up for the same price I paid for it. I get a great premium that week. I mean, if I make 5 to 7% on my money, 7% in 1 week, that's 360% annualized.
It's crazy, right?
And
in a week,
yeah,
times 52 weeks. So come on, that's
364%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but like I said, I would much rather never own a single share of stock, make my little 1.6 to 1.8. Double my money after I reinvest.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of owning stock, but that's, if you have a lot of money, you could do that. It does take a lot more money to do that, to own the stock.
And you should always only do stocks that you like and that you know.
Now, you got to explain a put and a call, because that's just a word, it doesn't explain.
Well, so the cash secured put means I'm putting up cash and I'm making a deal to buy the stock if it drops to a level.
You're going to make money on the drop.
Well, I'm going to get paid a premium, which, like I said, so say it's a $10 stock, and I go down to a delta that paid me 1.8% for that week.
You have to explain what a delta is. So we're talking terms that are way over my audience.
Sorry. I'm going down. I'm finding a strike price. Say it goes down in 50-cent increments. So each 50-cent increment you go down, your chances of getting assigned or having to buy the stock or gets lower.
Okay.
So I try to get down into an 80 to 85% chance where I will never own the stock. Well, for each time you go down, the premium, the money that I'm getting paid to make the deal, goes down because the odds are getting less and less that I'm going to have to buy the stock. So if it's an $8, I'm agreeing to buy it for 8, and I'm making 1.8% on my money. So that'd be, we'll say either $9.50 or $10 per contract. But still, I'm dealing with
large numbers.
Yeah, a lot of contracts. I'm not doing just
So
one.
a lot of these guys, can they start off with $1,000 or $2,000?
Yeah.
I know you said some of your
Yeah.
newbies start off with that, because a lot of the guys don't have 100,000 to put into a market, or even $1 million. And I don't recommend it anyway, because you should start off slow.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, my friend Cam, who's been doing it, I taught him right at the first of the year, and he came in. He's an Aussie, and what he put in? He put in 3,000 US, and then just played with it. He'd only do one contract a week. Then he got more comfortable with it, and he's doing 2 now. But I talked to him, saw him yesterday, and he started in January. It was a little after the New Year's, but he's up 23% year to date.
This January.
Yeah. And right now, while the market is, a lot of people their portfolios are crushed, he's sitting at 23%.
Yeah. Well, stock market did drop badly, especially with China tariffs, and now it's come back quite a bit. Obviously, there's a big chance of gains either way.
Right.
Because the market, it's volatile. It's volatile. That's what you want. So when a market's volatile and you pick the right direction, you can do very well.
Well, I think right now is a tremendous buying opportunity. A lot of things are down, so I may not get as aggressive to go down to 1.8% on the puts. Instead of 10 going all the way to 8, I might go to 9. Because if I get assigned right now at 9, I think, you can go back every year and find out how each month is in the market, and some months are better than others. April's traditionally bad, and things will go flat here, and then it'll pick up again in August, go pretty good into, say, mid-November, then it'll drop a little bit, and then you get the little Santa Claus push at the end of the year.
Yeah, you do always. January, too. January's always
the first couple weeks into January.
Yeah. So you spend a total of how much time, and we're talking only Monday through Friday. It's not open. The markets aren't open on the weekends. So Monday's your biggest day, your most concerned day, because it's over the weekend. Things get announced over the weekend, which affect the market Monday morning or Monday evening. So how long do you spend, say, you said 15 minutes, but do you spend more time on Mondays?
That's when I make my trades. Now, there's things you have to pay attention. When the Federal Reserve meets, and they meet, I think it's 9 times out of the year, that's another thing that's killing the market right now. Jerome Powell, I hate that guy. He's not dropping interest rates.
Right.
And now hopefully they will. Hopefully they'll drop it at least 25 basis points on their next meeting. But you have to pay attention to that. Every Friday, the jobs numbers come out. You got to look at that. And then inflation.
The job numbers come up after the market closes, as I remember.
Yes.
Yeah. So it affects not Monday.
Yeah. So Monday.
Yeah, because they purposely do that. They don't want to affect the market on Friday.
Right.
But all these things affect the markets on Mondays. Mondays is your biggest day of concern, I'll say.
But really, that's all the time that I do now. I'll log in to see, what the price is or something like that.
Which you can have it on your phone, too. I forgot to mention that.
Right.
You could have the same, you could buy and sell, you could follow the charts and everything on your cell phone, as long as you have internet service.
Yeah, every brokerage has an app.
Right.
So
I used to be able to follow it throughout the day on my cell phone. And now I put in, when I did options only, I put in stops. And I did mostly calls, not too many puts.
How far would you go out on your calls? Would you go out months, and then once you hit a certain thing?
I usually bought for 2 months, was give or take a few weeks, 2 months. Longest would be 3 months, shortest would be 1 month. And I picked those dates, and then I put in a stop to get me out without too much of a loss.
So now also you just said something that I didn't think about. I sell cash secured put contracts. I sell covered call contracts. You just said you bought.
Yes, I bought.
So there's
I
two different things
I know
you can
you
do.
sell. I bought.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't do the puts. I got a little confused on the puts. It's not in my nature to think negative. It's in my nature to always think positive. Okay, so pretty much dwelled on things to go up, not things to drop off. Okay, and you have to have a reverse thinking, and I have a hard time with that. I think everything is positive, so I look for the positive, but you have to look for the negative
Sure.
on a put.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's probably even less people that do puts than they do calls because of the same problem.
But again, though, like I said, I sell. You said you bought. You can do both things.
Right.
You can buy a call.
Yes.
I sell calls.
Oh, okay.
So see, you're doing something that I don't
do. So I'm gonna have to learn something new. Yeah.
The two things I do are the two easiest things to get approved of from a broker. And this is actually, a lot of people are going to blow their mind or just go insane with this, but there is no way you can lose money selling a covered call unless you sell the stock for less than you paid for it. There's no way.
Okay.
If you get assigned the stock at $10,
Even if you sell it at the same price, like you had give the example of $8, you still get a percentage.
I got paid that premium.
You got to pay the premiums, which makes money.
Right.
And it cost you $8. You sold it for $8, but you got paid a premium for doing it.
Right.
Okay, I never did that, and I never owned any of my. I only owned options. I never had covered.
Okay. So you just own the contracts.
Yeah.
And you would.
That's
put
why
your
I said I
stop
never
loss.
owned any stock ever.
Okay.
I only owned the option to own the stock. I never followed through with the purchase.
Oh, okay.
So and it's very interesting. There's a lot to learn about this because there's a lot of ways to do trading. Some people just buy stock. I never would buy stock. Every time I ever bought stock in my earlier years, the brokers always screwed me over. I'll be honest with you. So
Well, they're pushing you to buy stuff that they're getting paid a commission on.
The biggest commission, and it's not necessarily the best stock. And then they churn your account multiple times, and they make a commission every time. And every time I gave money to a stockbroker, I lost money. That's why a lot of people are going to be afraid of stocks because they probably did the same thing. But you are the broker.
Yeah.
And the difference is you are controlling the buy and the sell. You've cut out the middleman. You've cut out the guy that has a self-interest for his own pocket. You are the one that has a self-interest in your own pocket, and you're dealing with your money. Yeah. I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to it. Now, is there anything we missed? Anything you think of on stock?
On
stock
stocks.
options.
No, like I said,
All right.
these two things are the easiest to get approved for. I mean, right away, even with no experience, any brokerage will give you permission to do covered calls. Because like I said, as long as you're not an idiot and sell the stock for less than you paid for it, you can't lose money.
The brokerage, the only reason why they won't let you do everything is because they're CYA. They don't want to be in trouble for you take him to court and say, well, he allowed me to do this, this, and that, but I didn't know what I was doing, and he should have advised me. Of course, that's stupid, but in the U.S., everybody sues for every reason.
Oh, yeah.
So they really are just a CYA situation, and they have levels, half a dozen levels, of being able to do, different types of.
And you can lose everything if you don't know what you're doing.
Yes, you can.
And then
that's why I only did 10% of my portfolio until the end, when I went about 75% because I was doing so well. But it made me really nervous. So we'll see if I have the guts and the gumption to do this. I'm going to learn it again.
Start slow. Is there a particular stock, anything that you're interested in?
I've been out of it so long. Yeah. I never really cared about the stock. And I know you said earlier you should pick one that you like, but I let the analytics decide which stocks were the best. And they would look for volatility. They'd look for other things, the fiscal year. If there's going to be a new CEO or things like that, or weather situations, they look at those kind of things, something that would affect the stock.
That's another thing. I'm glad you brought that up, that you should pay attention to is earnings, the earnings date.
Yeah.
That happens every quarter, and a lot of times it's best to just leave that alone on that week.
Yeah. Yeah, because you never know where it's going to go. And sometimes they'll give earnings to their stockholders at a detriment to the value of the stock. So Yeah, there's a lot to learn. So I'm gonna try to get into it. So I found it very interesting because I'm a numbers guy. You have to know math, by the way.
Oh yeah.
If you're not good at math, forget about it. You have to do math. And
And I'm a numbers geek.
yeah,
I
so
play with math,
yeah,
believe it or not.
that's why I like blackjack. I like counting cards. I like figuring out what everybody had and how many number 10 cards would come up, 10-point cards, things like that. How many aces were left on the deck, things like that. So I like math. I'm really fast with math, but you may be faster because you've been doing it. So I haven't been doing it in a long time, but I'm looking forward to it. Now, let's get on to just to ask a question. How many years have you been trading altogether?
I started in 2020, January of 2020.
Okay, so really not that many years.
Mm-mm.
Oh, and what made you start?
Was it January?
You said you got yourself taught, but what decided that?
What happened is, and some of you guys that are watching may remember this, but they had this group of guys, young guys, called Wall Street Bets. They had the little Trump logo guy, and what they were doing is, okay, so hedge funds.
Yes, I remember.
Like what Warren Buffett, he's got Berkshire and all that.
Hedge funds.
Well, what a hedge fund will do a lot of times is they will start talking bad about a company and short it. And what they do is they borrow a bunch of shares of stock, like millions of shares of stock. Say it's a $10 stock. They borrow millions of shares, sell it at $10. Then they talk bad about the company. The stock drops down to $2 a share. They repurchase the borrowed shares, pay it back at that, making $8 a share.
Right.
That's what hedge funds do. And it's a terrible thing. Well, these young kids, I think it was 2020, there were a couple things. Well, no, it was during COVID, so it had to be at least after March. But GameStop, AMC movie theaters, a couple of others were being shorted. And so these kids just came in and said, screw you, hedge funds. They started buying the stock, making the price just go up. Now all of a sudden the hedge funds are like, oh, crap, because they got to pay back those shares that they borrowed.
Right, at a higher price.
And so next thing you know, these guys are getting GameStop over $100, $200 a share. And these hedge funds, they cost one hedge fund over $2.4 billion.
Billion.
They had to borrow money from another hedge fund.
Oh, my God.
But by the time I got into that, everybody was doing it. When my little Vietnamese hairdresser is telling me about it, it's too late. So I didn't make any money.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, well, I didn't make any money. Then I went, like I did the route that you said. I looked at day trading. I like numbers and everything, but it was just too much work, too much risk.
Minute trading, day trading, forget it.
And then went to swing trading and did well in that. And the stock market was really good during COVID because everybody was getting the stimulus checks. So everybody had money. They're buying. Stocks were going up. It was great. And while I was looking at it, at one of the stocks that I owned, somehow like a video came up on options for YouTube. What's this? Watched it, and then found out that I could do a covered call on the stock that I owned. Now, the one that I had at the time wasn't very volatile, and I wasn't doing it weekly. I was doing it monthly, but I was making 4% a month on it.
That's
an additional 48% on top of whatever the stock did.
It's not bad.
And then I started finding out, the volatility pays better.
Yes.
And that's gotten me to where I'm at now, and there was a time there where I got really greedy. Like I said, I'm sitting on about 40,000 shares of some stock right now because
that's some big money, brother.
I didn't go down
that's
far
some
enough.
Big money.
Yes.
You have to be. I don't know if I could do that. That's really big money.
So
that's lifetime retirement money.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was greed that caused that. I didn't go down far enough on a price. I just went down from say 10 to 950, and then say I bought that. Then the market got slammed and goes down to 5. So now I'm barely making anything. Now I'll still push things. Like I said, some of these stocks, I couldn't even get I couldn't do a covered call contract. No one would pay me my cost on that because I'm down.
Oh, okay.
But what I'll do is I'll just go up enough, and I'll go up maybe 4, 4 rungs up the ladder, and I'll do a covered call for that. But then when I do that, I really have to pay attention, because if it does take off and I have to sell that stock, which could happen with the volatile stocks that I have, then I'd take a loss on it.
Okay.
But the good thing is you can either close out your contract, which is going to cost you money. If it spikes like that, that is going to cost you more than you got in your premium for
I
that
assume
week.
you probably did that in the beginning 5 years ago when you started.
Yes.
Yeah, but since then you've learned not to do that.
Yes, and that's what I teach everybody to do now.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Or just sell it for what you got into it and make that small amount of percentage.
the guy I was just telling you about, Cam, he got assigned stock on the week of April 7th when the tariffs got imposed, and he had to buy the stock at $9.50 a share. It dropped down to it got down to like $7.10, something like that. Now, the stock price, you don't lose money unless you sell it.
That's right.
You know, you're
So I
down
tell
on paper.
People
You're just
complain
down.
about losing money, but
Yes.
I says you didn't lose until you sold it. Okay.
Exactly. So he just held on to it, but he was still. It didn't drop that far to where he was still able to make a deal for the $9.50 that he paid for it, and was still getting paid a premium. Well, it's since come back, and as a matter of fact, he had it up this week for $9.50, and I think it closed at $9.42. So again, next week he'll put it up for $9.50 again and get that huge
Get
premium.
out of it.
Yeah, and hopefully sell it, go back,
Yeah.
but he's going to get a great premium, 5 to
Yes.
7%.
Oh, okay. So it's a higher premium.
Yeah, because he's basically right at cost right now. So
Okay.
so that's going to pay a lot.
All right. I'm going to tell you what. We're going to have you come back, and I'm going to report how I did. It'll probably be a month or two.
Sure.
Okay. But I am going to give it a shot and try. I appreciate you coming on.
Sure.
And then we'll follow up in a month or two. Again, I doubt if anybody would stay this long, but if you guys stayed this long to listen to this much, more power to you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kevin Tucker, if you need to get a hold of him, I'm going to add his. Do you mind people getting a hold of you? Do you want to answer? No, probably not. It does take time. People contact me a lot.
Well, yeah, and I don't mind teaching 1 or 2. I've actually had as many as 6 people at one
That's
time.
a lot. That's a lot to teach.
But
All right. Well, get a hold of me, and then when you get over here, we'll discuss about you possibly, you know, because he doesn't want to answer a million questions to people like I do. It's a lot. You can put it in comments and ask me questions and stuff, but when you get over here and you want to get a hold of Kevin, I'll ask Kevin first if it's
Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Once they get over here, I'll give them my messenger and all that.
I'll be your
problem.
in-between guy. Yeah. I
there
do
you
that
go.
with Paul, too, because Paul has so many people that want to talk to him.
geez,
And I'll say,
yeah.
just talk to me. Come over and visit, talk to me. And Paul appreciates that. He comes on Wednesday mornings here, which is,
I saw the
Yeah.
one y'all just did.
yeah. And unfortunately, my computer was so full of stuff, it froze. I had so many things running in the background, and even though I have a terabyte hard drive and I have a multiple CPU, 14, I think there's 14 CPUs in this thing, I had so much on it. So yesterday we had to clear out thousands of files, literally thousands of files, because it was freezing up. So normally our 2 hour was cut down to 1 hour and 8 minutes, I think. It just froze, and we couldn't see us moving. We couldn't see anybody's questions or anything. Why we're going to continue with that? We can't continue with the live. We don't know what to answer. We talked about for a little bit. Then we kind of laughed, and then when I went to go shut it off, the laptop wouldn't shut off. It wouldn't stop the live. It was pretty funny.
I tell you what. How about this? After you get in it for a month or so, if you want to do a live, I can answer questions there.
Okay, cool.
And
yeah,
we can
can
go
do
over
it
your
live.
results and
That
everything.
would be better, yeah, live. All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, if you studied this long. It was very interesting, actually. I'm looking forward to this. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.